Ronald Reagan quote somebody gave me now.
Is there a Ronald Reagan quote?
If we forget that we are one nation under God, we will be a nation gone under, by Ronald Reagan.
Amen.
So
I always liked him.
I was kind of a punk rocker back then, so
you didn't.
I didn't like anybody.
During that time frame, I was really for him.
I was too young to be. I was anti-everything. I was anti-society. So we came up with this topic early in the week, right? You did your due diligence early. I did my due diligence last night, and this morning I got up at 4:30 this morning, and I've been. I got to tell you, the topic today is upsetting to me.
Mm-hmm.
The topic today is when we talk about deceiving and being deceived. I think we're reading an article in a global publication. I mean, a well-respected global publication that is. I mean, it's disturbing.
Yeah.
So
I sent it to you last week, and
yeah,
I text you.
It was literally like last Thursday.
Yeah, I text you and I said next week's talking points, and then I text you again and I said, so you are an ambassador, and you came back and goes, what? And I was like, you haven't read it.
No.
So even when I talked to you yesterday,
I perused it when it got here.
Yeah. But
so this is let me put. Should I start? But you want to explain? Or you want me to put the article on the screen?
Well,
for you?
I came across this because the title of it just threw me.
I'll put it on the screen.
Yeah,
for
put
people.
it on the screen.
January 6th may have been only the first wave of Christian nationalist violence. This is Time magazine, by the way.
This is Time
so
magazine.
this is the big deal.
And they did it on January 6th.
January is a year later, right?
Yeah,
1 year. So this is how, after 1 year of investigating,
right,
January 6th, this is what they've come up with.
Well,
Time magazine,
these two guys, Samuel L. Perry and Andrew Whitehead. I'd love to talk to either one of you two.
These are the two right here.
Yeah.
One is a professor at the University of Oklahoma. One is a professor at Indiana and Purdue. And they are they've written books together and separately, and they are really upset about white Christian nationalists taking over or being too powerful. Is what is kind of what I get.
It's kind of like what I see also. But as I was reading this, because in my other life, let me just say this: in my other life, teaching church safety. One of the things that we really promote is to be ambassadors for Christ. I mean, look, I grew up in the Baptist church, and we had the Royal Ambassadors, which was like the Boy Scouts for the Baptist. They're still out there.
Like Baptist Boy Scouts?
Baptist Boy Scouts, yeah.
Nice.
You got awards, badges, all these things like this. You went camping. I mean, you did all the same things that, the Boy Scouts did. It was just under the Baptist church, And so when I'm reading this, I'm going through it, and I'm like, okay, here we go again. Some people really bashing Christians. And basically how they started out was that let us not forget. I mean, it's kind of like largely forgotten, unless we look at countless photos and footage of the violence, are the Christian banners and flags, the wooden crosses, the impromptu praise and worship sessions, the Jesus Saves signs, the Christian T-shirts, and the infamous corporate prayer in the name of Jesus in the Senate chamber. And then,
Right, so that was, and having stormed the sanctum of American democracy, the QAnon shaman, and I think that's the Buffalo Head guy, right?
I think it is the Buffalo guy.
Thanked God for filling the chamber with patriots that love you and love Christ,
right.
Allowing them to send a message to their enemies. This is our nation, not theirs.
So I kind of did the same thing you did. I briefly read this, but I caught the word ambassadors, and I was like, what is that? What does that mean? Because they started talking about white Christian nationalists, okay?
Yeah, so it starts off with Christian nationalists. And
right.
So to me, and the questions that they ask, and we'll cover the question too, but to me,
right.
they're asking, do you believe in that we should be officially a Christian nation? In other
right.
words, only have one religion you're allowed to practice in America.
Now they
or one denomination of Christianity,
yeah.
I would assume is how it would unfold.
And in this, they said for several years we measured Christian nationalism because this guy wrote a book. One of these guys wrote a book up here on. He wrote a book called "Taking America Back for God: Christian Nationalism in the United States." So. And it's won an award. I went out to one of the websites that has this book.
Uh-huh.
There's no reviews on it at all. I mean, zero.
Nobody read it.
I don't know. There's no. It
Well,
says be the first one to review.
according to these guys, there's 30 million white supremacists, white Christian nationalists.
You're getting way ahead of yourself here.
So this is what I got on the screen now.
Yeah. You're getting ahead of yourself.
I just highlighted what you were reading. For several years, we've measured Christian nationalist ideology by asking America a series of questions: whether they believe the government should declare U.S. a Christian nation,
Right.
whether they reject a series of questions, but they only give 3 of them, or whether they reject separation of church and state, and whether they think America's success is part of God's plan. So I'll answer these questions, these 3, for myself, and say, no, I don't think America should be a Christian nation officially, although I don't think we should pretend that we're not based on Judeo-Christian and Greco-Roman
How we got here.
rules. But do I reject separation of church and state? No, I believe that separation of church and state is designed to protect the church, not the state.
Yes.
Right? So I think that
We
separation
don't need
of church.
a state church.
Right. We don't need, because what if it's not my denomination? Then what do I do? Right? Am I not allowed?
What if it's one of these prosperity pastors that is now?
And it will be.
Yeah, it
Let's
will
face
be.
it.
Yeah.
And so they got all the money. So and then the third thing is America's success part of God's plan? I would absolutely say yes.
I mean,
right?
look at us now. We're not successful right now, and we're not a Christian country.
We haven't been in 60 years.
Yeah, if we are a Christian country right now, it's some weak Christians.
I say we're post-Christian America right now.
Yeah. So anyway.
So they go on to say that the top 20% of these are ambassadors for Christian nationalism. You're taking a long time. So
no, I'm not. It was the next.
It's the next line.
You know, really, this is what kills me about this. I was fired up about this last week, and you just now jumped
I just
on the
got it this way this 4:30 this morning.
You're kind of late for this party here.
So we'll go back to that then. So we call these, though we are the 2 guys that wrote this article. We call those who score roughly in the top 20% ambassadors of Christian nationalism. So
how many, when you say that, and you say this is around 30 million adults, where is this study? How did you measure this?
That implies that they interviewed 150 million, right? 20 is
20%.
20%.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Somebody do the math for us.
So then if they, I'm afraid because they didn't say that they did that. I bet you they interviewed 1,000 and then extrapolated out based on how many Christians there are in America, how many would be white supremacists or white nationalists,
which if we look
which
at
is another problem because they keep changing the definition throughout this article, right?
Yeah.
And Time Magazine's editors, a retired plumber picked up on that, but Time Magazine's editors apparently didn't pick up on that. But they change their definitions as they go, and we'll see that in a second. So and our recent findings suggest they grow more accepting of the insurrection on January 6th. So are they saying then that people have become more accepting of that? Or I don't think my opinion has changed very much.
Mine hasn't. But
kind of feel the same as I
it
always
goes
felt.
on and says, in February 2021, we asked Americans for their thoughts about the Capitol riots. Well, I don't know. Listen, maybe I'm just in a small circle. I feel like I'm in a large circle. My kids get mad at me because we can't go anywhere that I don't run into somebody that I know.
Yeah.
But I don't know of anybody that says the attack on the Capitol was correct. I'm not going to call it an insurrection. If it was an insurrection, it's the worst one ever planned. And it wasn't planned. Even the FBI came out and said this was not planned. This was a spur-of-the-moment thing that happened. The FBI came out and said.
And there was hundreds of thousands of people, and a couple of thousand or 1,000 did it.
Yeah.
So if it was planned.
Think about it just for a second.
If 200,000 people did that?
I'm gonna start a conspiracy for you. I'm going to start a conspiracy.
I love it.
Okay? It was planned all right, but not by these people that showed up here.
It was planned by Black Lives Matter.
It was planned by
the FBI.
The other party.
Oh, the Democrats.
Because think about it for a second. Trump was willing to send the National Guard there, and they said no. Lindsey Graham, I think it was, I'd have to go back and look, said that he was talking to one of the high up in the Capitol Police, and he said they were worried because they had gotten word that people were going to storm the Capitol.
Did they have the
So
gates up? They had the gates up
they had the
before
gates
it, right?
up, yeah.
Or was that before January 6th?
They didn't have the high fences up. They had gates around the Capitol.
So how did? So they had those new gates they put up around all the
Yeah.
federal buildings.
Yeah,
Was that before the inauguration
It
or
shows-
before the January 6th thing?
before the
January
January
6th is when they were voting
Look,
on.
look. The Democrats have been planning this forever because they continuously said Trump is not going to leave easily out of the White House.
Yeah.
We're going to have to drag him out.
And they
He's
said
gonna
that early. They
declare-
said that
they
like
said that early.
2016.
We have to we're going to have to call in and have him escorted out to get him out of here because he's not going to leave. Well, guess what? Their plans started to fall apart. So how else are we going to do this? How else are we going to get this started? And as you like to say, the useful idiots fell for it. Fell for it because there were people up there standing on, different locations. We're going to charge this. We're going to charge this. We're going to charge this. I'll just put a shout out.
And then when you're fired up like that, and it was an emotional time for everyone, right? For Democrats and Republicans.
Sure.
We just finished a whole summer of riots.
Right.
We had very questionable election practices in all the Democratic
Questionable?
states.
Questionable?
Yeah,
Come on.
and so
Gosh.
I think they set the stage perfectly. I wouldn't put it past our government to
said
do
it
things like that.
perfectly.
So and this is probably going to be the theme of our talk today. But then how do we not get sucked into that, right?
Right.
How could they have how could they have not gotten sucked into that? I mean, percentage-wise, you're going to get enough people to do it, right? So if you have 250,000 people, and you get, 10% to do it, that's 25,000, right? Well,
Yeah, but it wasn't even that.
They only got 1% to do it.
They only got like 1% because there were so many people trying to stop it. Tucker Carlson did a thing on the insurrection, like in quotes. And it's on the Fox Nation, and I went out and watched it. And the thing that saddened me about it was they only give them like 30 minutes per session or 39 minutes per session to kind of make their case. They need to make their case forever. I mean, they need to do a full-scale investigation, with both Republicans and Democrats. I have no problem with this being a bipartisan examination, that they put the documents in there. But right now, it is truly a Democratic investigation going on. So what do you think they're going to do? I mean, they're still bringing up stuff. There's news articles today that says Trump was a part of the conspiracy because one of these guys pled guilty. Well, you know what? I've been around those people that plead guilty. I'm going to tell you what happens. They will sell their mother's soul so that they don't get a big sentence. They'll sell anybody that they think that they may be interested in to get a lighter sentence than what they're about to get. Because if you look at these guys and they say they apparently convicted him, I want to go back and read it because I think he pled guilty to it. There's a big difference between finding somebody guilty and pleading to it. Because most of the time when you plead to something like that,
for a deal.
It's for a deal. Yeah. And so if he gets a light sentence of like maybe 5 years in a federal penitentiary, some country club that he's going to, I have questions on that. I really do. So there's so much to unpack. We don't have time for it.
So at its very basis, at the very baseline, we see a media and a government that is, and a society that is outraged by the sins of their enemies,
sure,
but not the sins that suit them so well, right?
Right.
So the riot all summer long, we have horrible riots during a pandemic, where cities are burned, lives are actually ruined, right?
Right.
And everybody's pretty cool with it, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's pretty cool with it. And
our vice president was posting bond for these people to help them get out.
Help them get out. So then we see the frustration of the average American that would say, what's the deal with that? We need to wear a mask, but the protesters and rioters don't. They can assemble. We can't go to church, but they can have a protest. I could see how all that becomes inflammatory. And none of this, by the way, justifies rushing the Capitol. I mean, it's not the first time the Capitol was rushed, but
and we're gonna
we don't.
But we don't talk about those. We don't talk about those.
It's happened before where people filed in and disrupted a Senate hearing.
But even in the protests during the time, there were things going on in the background that a lot of people don't see. That's why it's important to be listening to people. And listen, I'm going to take a step back because I know that I'm riled up on this. Because the reason why I'm riled up on it is I see our country, we're losing our country, and it's scaring me. And now they're coming after the Christians.
Well, and have we not been saying for 64 episodes that I think the real goal is the church, right?
Sure.
So the real goal is to tame and silence the church. Speaking of silencing the church, or silencing Americans, period, they have in this article they talk about the virtues of deplatforming people that espouse these things.
Right.
And deplatforming, for those of you that don't speak lefty, is censorship. Right? So while I don't consider myself a white nationalist or a Christian nationalist for that matter, I'm a Christian and maybe a nationalist, by the way. I think American government should put America first. I think that makes perfect sense. I think that they are willing to silence people they disagree with, and that would be me and you. And here's the scary part. Too many Americans are okay with silencing people we disagree with.
Sure.
So,
oh gosh, yes.
So,
and that's not us.
So should Black Lives Matter and Antifa have the right to march? Certainly. Should the white supremacists from Charlottesville, have the right to march? Certainly.
Peacefully.
So long as they could do so peacefully.
Right.
And should these people have had the right to assemble in and around the Capitol building peacefully?
Right.
Yeah. It didn't end up that way, right? And this is the catch-22 for us as Christians. I think, and I've always said it on the show. I've never not said it. I think things are going to get worse before they get better. I don't think this ends the way people think it's going to end.
No,
this is not going to end in people folding up their American flags and going home.
No, but
this is something. Some people take their patriotism as seriously or more seriously than we take our faith.
But what we have to do here is we have to realize that if we start to preach that people are going to take this more seriously than you and I are taking it, that we're talking physical violence. We do not agree with that. We do we do not promote that. The basics of this, let's make sure that we're perfectly clear. We need to get people riled up to have an insurrection like they did in Virginia.
Right. We need to
we need to make
fight back by political and peaceful political means, not by
the
violence.
way the government was put together. And we need to make sure that we're going. I mean, there's state after state after state that are changing their voting laws to where they will not be like what happened the last time. And of course, what happens? They come and attack that state like they did Georgia and say, "Oh, these laws are to where minorities cannot vote. It's difficult for minorities to vote in these states." And it's a bunch of crap. But see, here's the thing. Just like one of my friends said, who reads Time magazine? Liberals do.
Yeah.
And when they read this and read this statement that says January 6th may have been only the first wave of Christian nationalism violence.
And they, by the way, are only going to read the headlines.
That's all they're going to read.
What they're going to see is that January 6th was Christian violence.
Right.
That's
well, even if they read.
And when you see nationalists, you don't think of somebody that thinks they should put America first. You think of somebody I think of a white supremacist first.
Yeah.
Right? So if someone says, am I a nationalist, my first thought is no. But if by definition I think my government should put my country first, my answer is yes, then I am a nationalist.
If you only read the first two paragraphs, after the horrifying violence at the Capitol on January 6th, horrifying violence, describe that, But see, that's why they had that law enforcement officer.
That's subjective. Any violence could be horrifying.
Yeah, that's subjective. It is
subjective. I mean, the violence all summer was horrifying as well, but nobody said that on Time magazine.
I haven't seen it in Time magazine.
By the way, Time magazine would be canceled if they said that.
Did, sure.
Certainly Coca-Cola would withdraw their advertising. So here we go.
But
now
anyway,
we're in trouble
the first two paragraphs, they just bring in Christians as guilt by association. And if you read nothing else,
yeah. And so by the way, they are somewhat disingenuously kind to Christians in the last two paragraphs, and nobody ever reads those, right? So they know to put that. They know to put that last.
The liberal Christians are reading the last two.
So it makes them feel better. So if they were trying to be objective here, they would say, let's be clear, blah, 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 what they said in the last two paragraphs, which we'll get to.
Right.
But instead, they start with, if it bleeds, it leads, right?
We are forgetting that January 6th was very much a religious event.
Right.
No, it wasn't.
It had zero to do with Christianity.
It had zero to do with it.
There were Christians there. That's what's upsetting.
Yeah.
So when you look at the Christian banners, wooden crosses, praise and worship sessions, and Jesus Saves signs, these are all, if we look.
I didn't see them.
There's some there.
Well, there's some there. Okay.
That's outside the Capitol. That is not illegal. That's not
illegal.
violence.
That's not in there.
So they're equating, they're correlating the violence inside the Capitol with the banners and flags outside the Capitol.
Right.
Well,
That's guilt by association.
Let's see if this guy's. No, I'd say that's outside the Capitol too.
Yeah.
They were lucky enough, by the way, to get the Southern Cross, rebel flag, and the cross in one picture. That's got to feel good for the lefties. But you see that all of these things are outside the Capitol.
Jesus Saves, outside the Capitol.
Yeah.
There's the cross that we're talking about.
That's not just a cross. That's
Templar.
Yeah,
the
Knights Templar or whatever it is.
Templars, yeah.
So you see that, but nobody reads the articles. Nobody clicks on these links. What they're hoping to see is that everything is that everything is. Look, this guy here carrying a flag with a Jesus. My Savior.
And he's outside.
Oh, Jesus is my Savior. Trump's my president. Probably.
Yeah.
What it says.
He's outside.
Well, I think if you were a Christian in America between 2016 and 2020, Jesus was your Savior and Trump was your president.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Biden's our president right now. Did you enjoy the State of the Union?
We won't go there.
We won't even go there?
Not now.
That was horrific.
It was
embarrassing.
Okay.
So anyway,
we're on this story here.
A whole different story. So for us as Christians, we need to not get sucked in,
right?
Like they got sucked in on, like some of them got sucked in on January 6th, right? We need to be very clear what we believe and why we believe it, right? So if you say I am a Christian nationalist, I say I'm a Christian, and I believe our government should put our nation first, right? It seems to make perfect sense. If that's what it means to be a Christian nationalist, then I'm a Christian nationalist. But if it means I think only Christians should be allowed to vote, or only white people should be allowed to vote, or only men should be allowed to vote, I absolutely don't believe those things. But they want the reader to believe we believe those things. Right. Does that make sense?
Sure. But you got to look at some of the things that they say in here that it just blows my mind when I read stuff like that.
I'm on it. I'm scrolling
down. Go down. It says, just as disturbing, white Christian nationalists are isolating themselves within more homogeneous, homogeneous, thank you, social groups. Now I like this. Experimental research. Explain that to me.
New experimental research shows that.
Explain that to me, because I went over and looked at it, and you got to pay $37 to get a copy of it. I'm sorry.
Well,
if you're not proud enough to show me your stuff without having to charge me, there's something hidden there.
I can tell you right now, you use an article like this to marginalize and vilify a portion of the population, and then you say now they're isolating themselves in small homogenous groups. But of course they are. You've run them out of mainstream society. They're not just going to go away. They're going to go somewhere. So
isolate themselves.
They
with
create the problem.
Who only share their moral worldviews. Well, wait a minute.
So
I go to a Christian church that shares my moral worldview.
Yeah, and since you are deplatformed publicly, you have to do these things. So they create the problem, and then they have the only solution for the problem. How convenient is that? So here's the thing.
The more they express radical intentions and a willingness to fight or die for their group. Oh my God.
Well, you need to. It's insane.
We
need to. Here's what we need to do as Christians, even as white people. I'll even say it as white people. We need to not get suckered into these things, because the day is coming, if we allow this narrative of critical race theory to continue, the day is coming where we're going to have to choose a side based on race, because that's the only choice they're giving us. Right. And if I'm white, I'm picking the white side. If I'm black, I'm picking the black side. Whites and blacks and Christians in America cannot get suckered into this narrative any more than we already have. We need to break this cycle because I've said it. I said it a year ago. I'll say it now, Jim. It doesn't end well. It absolutely doesn't end well. If you force me to pick a team and you vilify the team that every team but yours, what do you expect is going to happen when you do things like that?
What are we seeing overseas? What are we seeing overseas? Putin said Ukraine was a Nazi group. That's what he said.
He's Jewish, by the way. Zelensky's Jewish.
Yeah, that they were a Nazi group. They were practicing, German Nazism. I mean, that's how he said this. That's what he put out there to say that this was, why we're going in. It was propaganda. This is propaganda. I mean, it is this article is such.
It's dangerous.
I would love these guys to contact us. I really would, because I want to know where they got their information, how they're basing it. This is where they can say anything they want, and they go in and say Christian nationalists are not only increasingly getting their news from certain platforms. What does that mean? And the right-wing news sources, but they are believing the narratives being shared. Well, if I go to the left side, they're believing the narratives being shared there.
Right. And
if we want to really sit down and talk about the truth, where it's somewhere in the middle, you're going to see it leans more toward the right side than it does the left side.
Reality favors the right. They are. The reason I don't ascribe to the views of the left is because I think they are full flight from reality. For the most part, I understand that there are good hearts and good intentions in the mix, except that they are being suckered or controlled by evil people. It seems like. So the idea that now that now we need to separate after 60 years of battling racism in this country by taking one person at a time by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. They're saying no. Martin Luther King was wrong. All the progress we made is wrong because now all we want you to see is their color or their gender or their sexual preferences. That's all they want my kids to see. My kids, my answer is still no. They're not allowed to see the world that way.
What happened when we used to put up the sign that had all multicolored playing together? What happened to that? It is now that they've started this agenda on the left. Let's be realistic. It's on the left. What happened in Virginia? Go back to that again. It was the teachers union. It was the ones who are Democrats. It is the ones who lean that way. They were coming in and saying, we are going to teach critical race theory
whether you like
no matter what you think about it. In fact, we know what's better for your children than you do.
And the governor at the time of Virginia said the parents don't have the right to decide how their children are educated.
Yeah.
In our public schools. They think that's their money, right?
Yeah.
That's the public's money. So this is why I think for a lot of reasons this doesn't end very well. So we go on to read here that
I got a lot more.
So pick a topic and we'll keep going.
It says, okay, among the central unifying narratives within white Christian nationalist ideology is that of victimization, that we are victims, okay?
So we are victims of what would what do they say what we're victims of?
It's not just due to the demographic transition, their clear electoral majority is no longer given, okay? That's not true. We really won the election, though research shows that the threat of immigration and minority status does make whites more Christian nationalists. So here we go again. It's about race and immigration
and religion. I mean, are we worried about white nationalists, Christian nationalists, or white supremacists? I don't understand who they're upset with, except it's everybody that disagrees with their political views.
Exactly. It is. They genuinely believe they are persecuted. Really? In our August survey, and like I said,
I fall into
show
that group,
me
by the way.
these surveys.
I read this article. I believe Christians are being persecuted by this article.
By this article.
So you can't use bigotry to fight bigotry. It's
in our
insanity.
August survey, we gave Americans a list of social. Show me the survey, and asked them to pick which group faces the most discrimination these days. Nearly 76% of white ambassadors. Here we go again. The white ambassadors said that either whites or Christians face the most discrimination.
I would like to see the whole thing of the whole study. I'd like to see how everybody else answers those questions.
Show me the study.
This is what is this? Christian no more. Christian Americans are threatened by their Christian no more. Christian Americans are threatened by their impending minority status. So this is interesting. We got to.
Well, let's go down. Just go down a little bit. It says, yeah, I know. This is one that you have to pay for because I went to look for it.
Oh, okay. So we can't really get a
Yeah,
good look
I
at it.
wanted to. Yeah, it's an abstract and it doesn't tell me anything at all. So I really wanted to.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah. And like I said,
so 76% of white ambassadors, by their definition, so yeah. So if they were going to make a real argument, if they were going to make a argument that would stand up, they would have some of this stuff plugged in here. So they say 20% are ambassadors, which equals 30 million. But does that mean that they interviewed that many Americans to come up with that number? See what I'm saying? Did they interview 150 million Americans to come up with that? It would have to be 150 million Christians, right?
Right.
And they'd have to be white too, I guess.
Right.
I wonder how many black people fall into
now
this category.
I'm finding
Black Christians.
I'm finding one of these, and I did look at this, and I was kind of like, whatever. There is an article. If you go down to where it says it says in our August 2021 survey.
I got it right here.
Okay, so keep going down to where it says other polls find similar findings. For example, in September 2021, the Public Religion Research Institute found that roughly 1/3 of whites who believe God granted a special role in human history. But they showed the survey. So if you click on it, you see the survey. That's what I want to see. But God granted American a special role in human history. Completely agreed that patriotic violence may be necessary to save the nation.
So what they're saying,
what is that?
92% of Republicans, 72% of independents, and 67% of Democrats agree with the idea that America has always been a force of good in the world.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting.
Yeah, but it says all Americans, 74% say that. Republicans, 92%. Independents, 72%. And then we get to the Democrats, and the Democrats say, 67% of us feel that way.
Yeah.
Where you see an abundant, and then they start going to white evangelical Protestants. But see, I don't have a problem with saying white evangelical Protestants. White mainline non-Protestants, white Catholics, Hispanic Catholics. You go down the list, they're saying all others, And so it's, of course, once again, we say that most Americans say the U.S. has always been a force of good, and they have always been proud to be an American by party affiliation and religious affiliation. So this is a good report.
So yeah, I don't see I'll be honest with you, I don't see a tremendous difference between the left and the right on here.
I don't either. But
12%.
What they did, they cherry picked it. Because they said another poll shows a greater comfort with the use of force to achieve political ends among. Wait, that's another poll. But the other one says, for example, in their September 20, it says that found that roughly one third, okay, that's not the majority.
Right.
All right, of whites who believe God granted a special role in human history completely agreed that patriotic violence may be necessary to save the nation. What does that mean? If China and Russia attacked us, only 1/3 of us believe that we should be, patriotic violence may be necessary. What does that mean? They cherry pick it.
And patriotic violence almost implies right-wing violence.
Sure it does.
Right? So it doesn't say
what they're doing
yeah,
here.
so it
who reads this?
So I say is there a potential for violence to preserve our nation? Yeah, heck yeah. We've already had one civil war.
Yeah.
We're on the verge of another civil war. If we haven't even started that civil war yet. I think articles like this Time Magazine article are perpetuating the civil war. I think they are, if Christians, and we're getting towards the end of the show here, so let's kind of turn this back towards the church, but if Christians are not careful when they read this stuff, they can get sucked right into this.
Sure they can.
And they could be bad ambassadors for Christ, right? They could put it. I say it all the time, but if you're waiting for the world to put Christianity in the best possible light, you're going to be waiting forever.
Right.
That's the job of the Christian, right?
That's right.
So it is our job to be the gospel everywhere we go. This is I don't want to I don't want to sign off without reading these last two paragraphs.
Sure, go ahead.
Because the interesting thing is, A, they didn't put it at the beginning, they put it at the end.
Right.
B, the inflammatory headline doesn't really match. They keep changing definitions throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Then they put the pandering at the end. Let me put it on the screen so people can see it. Yeah, we might also remember that the enemy isn't religion, and I think they're being disingenuous when they say that. Deeply religious citizens, or even the influence of religion in American politics, that on its surface is kind of where I'm at, right? The vast majority of Americans are religious, Christians, in fact. The most devout of these Americans love their neighbors, so a small percentage of these Christians, the most devout ones, love their neighbors and enrich their communities and value liberal democracy. So that is very nice of them to pat Christians on the head like that and send it before they send us to our room.
Keep going. I want to.
Rather than denounce any trace of religion in politics, we think it better to amplify the kind of religion expression that accomplishes democratic goals. Americans are right to be concerned about the threat of religious violence from an ethno-religious subculture that's growing increasingly isolated and paranoid. But that group remains the minority, and they can be confronted with a sacred commitment to creed that at best unite all Americans regardless of ethnicity, religious identity, legal equality, full democratic representation, freedom of speech, and of course freedom of religion for all. So they are on one side of their face warning people about Christians, on the other side of the face white Christians. On the other side of the face, they say we can all live together regardless of race and religion. They're saying we have freedom of speech, but they're up here talking about, in this paragraph, talking about how important of tool deplatforming is for to fight white supremacy, basically.
As long as you are saying what they want you to say, you're a good guy.
Right.
But if you start to say anything different, then you're a bad guy.
Right.
And so if we deplatform, and that word isn't even a real word.
Deplatform is just their easy way of saying that we can censor what we disagree with.
We created a new word. So
and by the way, if they need somebody to help fight white supremacy, I'm on board. I'll fight it.
Oh, heck yeah.
Right? But will it be on their terms? Will they be the ones that determine what a white supremacist is?
Wait. If they need somebody that wants to fight racism, we're on board.
Right.
Because critical race theory is nothing but racism.
This article is anti-Christian bigotry.
Yeah.
And they should be ashamed of themselves for having published this. Yeah. And Americans should be ashamed of themselves for feeding into this BS. That's what I think.
Well, I agree. I had another thing I was going to say, but
so let's lay it down for folks moving forward. How if your people from your church or your family came to you and said, how then do we negotiate something like this? Do we pretend these articles aren't written and consumed, or do we be part of this conversation? Should Christians play less of a role in politics or more of a role in politics? How would we navigate our people through something like this?
Well, you know what?
This, by the way, to me, hate speech shouldn't even be published. It is encouraging violence against Christians.
It is because. So think about this just for a second.
If you were to plug any other demographic into an article like this, they'd be in big trouble.
Let me give you the scenario that I look at. When I go to these churches to talk to them, one of the things I like to do is walk through the parking lot. Because I walk through the parking lot and I see Trump for 2024. I see NRA stickers. I see, go Brandon, different things like this. Let's go Brandon, yeah. And I see these things, and so what does that mean? By this article right here, this would be that this is a white Christian nationalist group inside. And it does not matter the color of your skin, because they're going to clump you in. Remember, we did an article about tan is the new white supremacist. Don't you remember we talked
did a show about that?
We did a show about that. Yeah, I know your memory's failing, but we did a show
getting
about
old.
that. Yeah, where they are now including black people in white supremacy, and they point them out. I mean, the governor from Georgia. I can't think of his name right now, but he is just such a incredible person to listen to. about how faith and religion and how he treats people are all equal. He doesn't look at people white, black, brown, or anything like that. And I'll look for it in a sec while you finish your stuff up. But what I see here is that this is going to invite violence on churches that are conservative churches, and they're out here everywhere. They are. So how do we tell people how to go through this? We talk about it. We bring it to everybody's attention.
We have to be part of the conversation.
We have to be a part of the conversation. We have to be at the table, as you like to say. We have to be at the table to continue the conversation. Like I said, I don't think these guys will hear of us. I really don't. But it would be really cool if I get an email from one of these guys that says, "Hey, I'd like to come on your show and give you the information that we looked at. Let us show you because like I said, when you use Pew Research Center and PRRI, I can go out and find those reports, but you're cherry picking again. Cherry picking again. Show me your stuff. Show me where you talk to that many Americans to prove your point to where you said 30 million Americans.
30 million Americans are white Christian nationalists.
So,
and why the constant change of definitions throughout the article? So it went from white nationalist to Christian nationalist to I forget what the third one was, but they
ambassadors.
Who are we? White ambassadors. Who are we talking about exactly?
Right.
And do we? I would love to know if there's really 30 million of them. If there's 30 million of them, we got a problem. They're not.
Jesus
they're not lying.
Christ went against the leaders of the church. He went against the leaders of the church because of the hate that they spewed out of their mouth.
Right.
One of the things that this is something that to me is it's just like this circle that's come around. One of the reasons why a lot of people did not want to stand up against the Jewish leaders were because they would get kicked out. And to get kicked out, that means that your whole economic environment
they would be deplatformed.
They would be deplatformed. And if that happens, nobody's buying your goods, nobody's selling you stuff, everybody's shutting their doors.
I think that's the reason for the letter to the Hebrews in the Bible.
Sure.
I think that's the motivation for it.
So when we talk about these things, some Christians are afraid to speak. Okay, then do me a favor. Support us. Support us. Support organizations that do speak up for us. Listen to us. Come out and pay attention to what we're saying.
We'll protect your anonymity.
We'll make it to where nobody will know who you are.
Yeah.
You know, support us by subscribing and things like that.
And sending us money.
Well, hey, if they want to, sure. I mean, True Christian
That'd
Talk.
be cool.
Yeah, I mean, we can figure that out.
We don't have much overhead, though.
No, yeah, I know.
For now.
You've got this set up.
Because we got a studio.
But what happens when they start to shut us down?
Yeah.
We've got to find another platform. That platform may cost us.
We're going to end up having to have our own website that can play live video or something.
Yeah. So it's one of the.
So they can donate their time, talent, and treasure to help us set up that website.
Come and listen to you preach. Come to the men's group that I put on. We preach love. We preach God's love, but we also preach that we're going to protect those that need protecting. Right. And listen, God doesn't really. I'm going to say this last thing, and I'll let you go ahead. But God does not need us. But he wants us. And he wants us to be, you don't like the word Christian nation, but I would like to see a revival that would bring Christ into it, that would maybe shut some of this stuff down.
Yeah, I would think we would agree with that. So at the end of the day, while I don't think we should have a state religion, a theocracy of any kind, we're kidding ourselves if we think we're not a nation built on Judeo-Christian and Greco-Roman values. Our whole system is built on that, right? So to think otherwise is ridiculous. The other question that they asked that I would explain this way: our founding documents were designed with a separation of church and state that protects religion from the government. Doesn't protect the government or the people from religion. It protects the people from the government, right? Or the government from the people. It protects the people from the government. So the idea that somehow it's freedom from religion is a perversion of what of the original intent of these documents.
But most people don't know that,
and they don't know it because we don't say it, right? It's been 60 years. These guys are, whether people read Time magazine or not is inconsequential. These guys are teaching our kids at the University of Oklahoma and the University of Indiana and Purdue University. They're teaching us. They're teaching our kids this stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah,
Our
these-
kids
yeah.
look up to these kids. They are deriving their self-worth from what these professors think of them. They're, of course, going to agree with what the professor says, right?
Absolutely,
They're at a moment in their lives, by the way, where they're finally free of their parents' influence.
Yeah,
and the
so they
world
can
is
have
their
their own
oyster. So they
opinion.
are completely vulnerable to this type of brainwashing. And Christian parents need to be super aware of that. So
Right.
I think we need to have this conversation. I think that God has
Put us back on the
blessed
screen.
us back on the screen.
Yeah, are we back on the screen?
Yeah.
Because we're closing up. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
God has
Hadn't caught up.
God has definitely blessed America, and we've played a positive role in the world, and that role is dwindling because we've moved away from God. I mean,
Sure.
it's
Sure.
just-
I mean,
I think there's empirical evidence to show
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
So I think what I'll say every week, guys, you need to get more involved, especially on a local level. I think the day's coming where our state governments are going to have to protect us from our federal government. I hate to say that, but I think that day's coming. In the meantime, we're called to care for the saints, to support each other, right? When we were reading before, this part of Romans 12 came to mind. Repay no evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with everyone.
Right.
So long as so long as it's up to you. Romans 12, by the way, super important for this topic.
Right.
But so long as it's up to you, live peaceably with everyone, right? I don't run around in my daily life calling people dirty sinners and pointing out their sins. I got my own sins to worry about, right?
Yeah.
I do, if someone challenges me on my faith or has questions regarding the Christian faith, I will stop and lay things out for them. I won't stutter, right? They'll get a clear, concise answer from me, whether I think they're going to like it or not, right? So I think that's the role that Christians have to play. We don't run around beating people up with the Bible, but we stand firm on what's inside of it.
Right.
You know?
Right. I mean, I just, it really disturbs me that they get away with this. And yet, if we were to write something like this ourselves, it would
About any other group, by the way.
Yeah.
You plug in a different group into that article, and all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what demographic you put in there. The only ones they can come after are white Christians.
Yeah.
So for them to say Christians feel feel victimized, they should feel victimized. They're under assault, and that article proves it.
Well, they feel safe by going after Christians.
Because it's easy.
It's easy.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
No one's going to stand up
because
against...
just like you said here in Romans 12, you says, repay no one evil for evil. So they're thinking, hey, the Christians are going to be following that.
Well, do you think Coca-Cola is going to get upset about this?
Yeah.
Or the NBA?
Yeah.
I mean, they're okay with human rights violations in China, but that they look the other way. Stuff like this, they look the other way. But
well, they cheer it on.
Yeah.
They
So no one of any power is going to come up against these people except for the people, like what happened in Loudoun County, Virginia. I think I can't understate the importance of that, guys. As always, we're praying for you guys, and as you navigate your way through these things, it's a super difficult time to be a Christian. Scripture tells us that's only going to get worse. Now more than ever, you need to know what you believe and why you believe it. If there's anything we can do for you to help along those lines, truechristiantalkinfo@gmail.com. We're here to help. If we can make a difference, we can help you make a difference. We'd be glad to do it. If you simply need prayer, we'll call you. We'll pray with you. If you want to be on the show, if you want to have a topic for a show, anything that you think would better or raise up the conversation here, give us an email, truechristiantalkinfo@gmail.com. We'll be glad to meet with you. Jimmy, say goodbye to the folks. What do you have to say?
Just please start to listen. Listen to those that you trust that are followers of Christ. Let's make sure that we put it the right way. They truly believe in what the gospel says. They preach the gospel. They talk about God's love. But make sure that you're paying attention to the right people. Because if you were to read these guys right here, you may think that, oh my gosh, Christians are terrible. That's not it. And we have to make sure that people are paying attention to what's being said. Other than that, listen, we're here for you. I mean, like I said, I'd love to talk to these guys. I'd like to have them on. But they won't come on because, they don't want to be challenged.
Well, yeah, I think I would, if they can't be on here, would love to see them on Fox or someone that would challenge them. But
Yeah.
odds are, and this is the intellectual or political silos we're beginning to put ourselves in. So we isolate people, we marginalize people, and then we become suspicious of the fact that they're isolated. But we've isolated them.
We've done it.
You've created that. So
we've met the enemy, and the enemy is us.
Yeah. So the enemy is they're creating an enemy so they can defeat an enemy, and this is insanely dangerous and biblical. And so, well, we love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. I'll be ready by next week, just in time.
Okay.
You guys are awesome. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Wendy, for all your comments and watching.
God bless.
Love you guys, and then
God bless this country. Pray for the Ukraine.
Pray for Ukraine.